Hi everyone, it's Mark here from the Australian DeFi Association and Not Centralized, and we're here for another Getting to Know the Community and Projects podcast. In this episode, we've got Andrew from Blockdaemon and calling all the way in from Singapore. So Andrew, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Mark. And it's always great, to do these things and get on the line with another Australian. It helps me feel like I'm back at home. I've been in Singapore. It'll be 13 years coming up in March. So yeah,
Wow.
thanks for having me, and excited to be here.
And congratulations, as we were just discussing before the show, on the birth. Is it your first or a
First,
sibling to first, mate? Well,
yeah.
congratulations. Welcome to fatherhood. I'm not there, but I hear all about it from my colleagues here, Nick and Arturo. So it's amazing, and just wishing you and your family all the best with that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You can actually see some stuffed bunny toys in the background. I thought I'd leave it there for authenticity, and yeah, thanks a lot. Touch wood, all's going well. We're really happy. Yeah.
Didn't want to, we don't, anyone could, like, you don't have to, you could be into your plush toys and not even be a father or mother or anything like that. But no, I saw that and I thought that that might be the case. So well done. Let's get into it. Like, people may have seen, and when you were down here for some events with Blockdaemon, we did some stuff over at Crypto Lulu. That was such an awesome event of networking and meeting people there. But could you give our listeners an overview of Blockdaemon, its mission, what you guys are about, how you're contributing to the ecosystem, especially in the APAC region where you are?
Yep, sure. Yeah, so let me unpack that for us. So Blockdaemon started in 2017. So we've been around for quite a while, and our founder Constantine was a long time. He's been into crypto and digital assets, and he'd always had this desire to build an infrastructure company. And so he was actually deploying Ethereum nodes himself, and he's like, wow, this is really hard, right? And then his vision was, institutions, financial services, even banks are going to have to deploy this infrastructure to run blockchains, and it's just not easy. And when we say not easy, even nowadays, like, yeah, look, people can turn the node on, but you want to talk to an a VP of engineering, a CTO, about managing uptime on blockchain, on public protocol, like, that's the real tricky bit. So, he saw the need there, and he very early on went to market, right, and was selling full nodes. And then very quickly that became, hey, I've got an Ethereum full node. Could you run the archive node? Because that's even more complicated. So, we started to sprawl into different protocols, in that business. So, at the moment, we're well over 100,000 active nodes under management via our management and orchestration platform internally across 60 protocols. And back then there wasn't even a way, there wasn't like node management software. So we've ended up building our own, internal software stack to manage, do the life cycle, do the updating, do all of this, so we've got a very robust, mature software stack to deploy nodes. Then we went on to be able to offer them out into a public marketplace. So some people know us because you can kind of swipe your credit card and buy a node, but the bulk of our business comes from more of an enterprise, B2B, white glove kind of service there. So that first line of business is the node business. That's where we started. That then deviated into, archive node, relays. And then 2019, and we've still got some of these classic emails between Constantine and some of our OG engineering leaders, because all of our engineering team are still here. So they were like, hey, this staking thing, this could be a thing, right? Like, we should probably do this. So it's quite interesting to go back and see the read the emails on the conversation between Constantine and Andrew Howell and Mary in our teams, and very quickly we moved into staking, and as people know in the community, staking is just the validator node. So if you've built this architecture and infrastructure to run full node, index, archive, relayer, you can just add another node type, and that is the validator node type. So we went, and we aggressively went in very early into the staking business. So we've got, internally what that looks like is a software stack. You can come buy full nodes from us, and that's in a kind of classic cost per node per month kind of model. And then we've got staking, and that's in a sort of token kind of business model, percentage of reward share as well. So that's how that works. And then last year, we saw the need to have a cryptography team. And there's only a few players now that actually have, large cryptographic teams. Most Web3 crypto companies have got software developers, but not cryptographers. So, we were very lucky and able to work. We've got SoftBank Vision and SBI in Japan we're very close with, and we were able to, that actually invested in what we think is one of the globally leading MPC cryptography teams, and a company called Sepior, and we were able to acquire that company and bring that company in. And just quickly, this team has been together since 2008. I'll share a link for the podcast notes, but they did the first commercial deployment of MPC, and it was for a sugar beet auction in Denmark, right? And non-digital asset use case. And they've been together, and they've been building out very robust market leading MPC kind of technologies as well. So where we've landed is we've started with nodes, we've moved into staking, and then we offer MPC and wallet technologies as well. And that's the evolution and where we're at with Blockdaemon. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, you guys are very much the epitome of infrastructure. And as you said, when we've met, there's people that will maybe not have heard of, but you're certainly using something that touches upon Blockdaemon's technology stack. So it's really fascinating. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that when they look into it, they'll start to connect the dots a lot more, not realizing that effectively there's many other apps and solutions out there that are using your tech to provide that value to their customers. And it's interesting what you said there, like with solving your own problems. I mean, some of the best software companies out there in the pre-Web3 kind of blockchain world came about because they were trying to just solve an internal problem. Slack came about because these guys were building a game, then they needed a better communication system, and they ended up creating Slack, which is used widely. So it's amazing what is done when you are trying to figure out how do we actually just best deliver this. It sounds very pragmatic. It's very much what we're about in terms of when we do building over here at Not Centralized, but it's fascinating to see how you guys do things. Let's get to the unique selling proposition there. What exactly sets Blockdaemon apart from, say, other infrastructure providers? How do you address the unique challenges that are going on in this space? Like if we think about scalability and security and ease of use, how do you tackle that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So, there's a couple of vectors here, and I think Constantine, our CEO, is very good at looking into the future, and taking a bet on which way he thinks the market and the ecosystem and customers and cohorts are going to go. So I would start the answer to that actually from our entity. We're one of the handful of players in this space that has fully audited books. Right. And I know it's a kind of boring answer, but when you're dealing with a bank, right, these are the things they want to talk about, right? How do you run your company? So we have a chief compliance officer who's been through the US SEC, compliance course and is buttoned away there. and we have an organizational structure as well. So, we're a Delaware topco, but we run our staking products and engineering largely out of Europe, right? So Ireland is kind of where we run that from. So like the nexus of that capability is actually in Europe, not in the US. And then, we have a Singapore entity and a German entity as well. And, in the future, we may have one or two more entities. So we can deal with the largest traditional company. Like we have structures and we can get through governance. Usually when we're talking to them, if they're nervous, we say, hey, look, let's slow down. Why don't you do the governance process first? And because we're confident we're going to exceed your requirements, and then we can work out exactly what you want to do after that. So that's where we're positioned. There are multiple players selling nodes and staking, but none of them are going to be able to go through that sort of governance process like we can. So like that's a really important piece for us. I think
I think when
the other
you think, oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead. Actually, I was just going to say, I think that's really interesting because when you go through, or when you see that the mainstream world is really what's going to drive the next wave of adoption, like we had the first kind of hype wave and very interesting, and things went up, went down, side to side, but we're seeing mainstream coming in, and we have to go through these processes. And I think for some, it's a wake up call. So it's good that you guys are prepared. So I wholeheartedly agree with the approach there.
Yeah, thank you. And like some of them, like we did this a while ago and we knew it was important. And then we went into some large partnerships. And in the end, they were like, oh, like we only could have picked you. Like, and we were like, oh, why did we go through all that? Like, and they're like, yeah, we can't tell you that until like we've run the process. But, so if you look at like, our customer base and our investor base, we're powering the largest crypto native companies. Some good examples in APAC is, crypto.com. We work a ton with those guys. In Australia, we work with a lot of the DeFi ecosystem, your Canvas teams, your Zero Cap, so your regulated digital asset managers. They actually have to report who they work with. And so a lot of like what we do just kind of then gets rolled up and flows through kind of on how they're reporting their compliance. Leading exchanges in Australia, I mentioned crypto.com, SwiftX, and actually our first customer in Australia was Caroline at BTC Markets. Yeah, so she's
Wow.
I think she's still on the website, and we want to deal with and we're best suited to deal with customers where they want the best product, right? But really compliance and all these other pieces are just as important, if not more important, right? That's where we fit in the market. We're not in that sort of small space where it's just, I'll give you a product, don't ask too many questions. That's where we fit. So I'd say the compliance piece. I'd say also if you look at how we're structured as a company and our board, like we've got the OG crypto guys, Dragonfly, Fembushi, CoinShares, like Hashkey, like we've got all those credible players on our cap table, but we've also got Citibank, JP Morgan, SoftBank, Comcast, Salesforce, Lyra Hippau, Tiger, we can go on and on, right? So actually the majority of our investment has come from non-Web3 companies that wanted to get into this space. So, and the strategics I mentioned are also customers. They're using part of our technology stack as well. And so our board meetings are very different than a normal Web3 company. Comcast is on our board and SoftBank. So, you've kind of got that sort of, and then we're presenting fully audited books and, these things. So that's how the company runs. It does mean like sometimes we're not the nimblest maybe in a quick deal because of this, but our customers appreciate it over time. And, these things are what set us apart. And then I think as you come down into the product layer, like we're really designed for industrial scale, performance, reliability, uptime, Like, we talk to, we're B2B. Like I said, retail doesn't really need to know about us, but we hope all crypto native, digital native, now a bit of gaming, and large traditional financial services and enterprises generally coming into this space, they're the ones we target, right? And where these things matter. um, we think of ourselves as the best place to scale. Like when we're talking to projects, even earlier stage projects, I'm like, have you found product market fit, and are you now thinking about really about performance, throughput, reliability? Then we're a great company to talk to. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And to your point there before, that we were just at the AFR Crypto Summit here, that brought a lot of the traditional banks and government regulators and industry together. And Nick was on stage and he spoke about how there's this, we talk about DeFi and CeFi and TradFi. At the end of the day, it's all going to be the one thing. It's just technology that is changing and evolving and making life better. So that's it's really interesting that you guys are seeing more of that, because I think that's the lesson that people need to have here for this to go mainstream. We have to have some of these things. We have to have, it's not just, it's only like Web3 that are on our governance. It's a mix of both. And I think that's the beauty of it, because we can learn from each other and we're improving existing systems. Now, you mentioned some of the products, you mentioned products there, and I know that you've got things like Blockdaemon Wallet and you've got the API suite. How do these products work? How do they empower those that are trying to build with it, whether it's a DeFi place or like a traditional institution? Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So let me talk through some like customer examples and use cases. So at the moment, we're one of the largest ETH stakers out there, period. Like, our customers will come to us and say, "Hey, look, we'd like to order 3,000 validators and we'd like it tomorrow." Right? So like, we've
Sounds
been
like a
building.
McDonald's order or something. But
Yeah,
would
yeah,
you like
yeah.
fries
Oh,
with that as well? Or?
yeah, that's definitely not a small order. So like, we've been building solutions to cater for this. So, one example, one product that, we can talk about is our staking API and reporting API. So you can imagine, look, okay, we're all kind of retail users. We've got 32 ETH, we've got our wallet, we do a delegation transaction to one validator, we pay the gas fee, we kind of look at the gas fee and go, oh, but we do it anyway because that's we want to stake some ETH, and then it's done, right? That's kind of how it works on the retail side. Like on the B2B side, it looks a little bit more like Web2 middleware infrastructure, and we give an API. So that API is a stake intent API, and then you can code, right, your intentions to the API. Hello, Blockdaemon, staking API. Please, I want to do 250 ETH validators in one single gas transaction. And we've got quite a sophisticated smart contract system set up that enables that. Because you can imagine, if you're an exchange, you don't want to pay gas fees on every single validator. You just want to batch this up, right? And then that savings you can then pass back onto your customer base. So we do that a lot as well. And that API at the moment, you can order 250 ETH validators in a single gas fee. Very shortly, it's going to go up to 400 to 500 in a single gas fee. So that's an example of scale. And we work with a lot of institutions just behind the scenes and provide that service, and then they go on and provide like a staking service to their users. I do want to get that sort of disclaimer kind of out there that we do technology staking, right? When we say staking, we say, this is a process to secure a POS network. Like there's no financial function involved in that. It's a technology function. It's not, any financial construct around borrowing or lending. It's actually, putting your assets at stake to a network, and that includes the voting, rights and all of that, that the POS chains want to do if that's part of the actual protocol. So that's one example I think we do. I think we use that with some of the largest exchanges globally. I mentioned a few. Things like Revolut in Europe, like we power all the staking. The Revolut users don't need to know about Blockdaemon, like they trust Revolut, right? So, that's some good examples. I think other partnerships as well, like we're quite excited, about the work we've done with Circle, and Circle has released its Web3 wallet. It underneath the hood, it's using our key management and blockchain access solutions, but it's a Circle product. It goes to market as Circle, right? So those are the things that we focus on as well. Just supporting the right institutions that are building the right products for the market.
I love it, and it's really interesting. Goes back to the points we were speaking about before that people may not know that it's Blockdaemon underneath, but you guys are there. And these very important pieces of whether it's infrastructure, it's apps, and it could be B2B apps, or it could be the end user retail kind of apps as well. But let's get into the partnerships as well. You shared Circle there, but could you share some more insights about the partnerships that you've got here in the APAC region, and just what are your thoughts on how these kinds of collaborations basically enhance the ecosystem and drive blockchain adoption? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think the way that we're helpful in this regard is on the technology and infrastructure side, obviously, and we help bring consistency of service. So I'll give you some examples. Look, most blockchain projects, they get comfortable with one infrastructure platform, and that's really all they can do, right? Because they've actually got to go build an app and build a business. So we can come along with an exchange, for an example, and this is quite common. We support about over 20 exchanges in APAC alone, where they'll say, "Hey, I'm running some nodes. It's kind of okay. It's not great. I use this one platform, maybe it's AWS or GCP," and then we'll say, "Well, look, let's make your network resilient. Why don't we put some full nodes around you, maybe in your country, outside your country, on different hardware platforms? So whatever happens, you're going to have the ability to process transactions, read, write, pull data off chain, and your users won't be affected if there's like a single, provider outage." So that's a resiliency use case, which then results in better, usage and, no interruptions for users, right? And we think that's really important. We rely on these services 24/7. And if they all point to a single data center, like it doesn't matter whose it is, like no data center has 100% uptime. So we do a lot of work on that sort of resilience and service continuity. And that's where we augment. Some customers come to us and go, "Hey, take it all." And then what we'll do is we go, right, for example, for some of the L1s, we will do the APAC, like, node rollout, and we'll put some nodes in Hong Kong in one platform, Japan another platform, Korea another platform, Singapore another platform, and Australia another platform. And we're like, look, whatever happens, there's no way all of this is going down, right? So, you can rely on this now. So we do a lot of that sort of work. And then on the staking side, that's really around, obviously that's a sort of revenue line for the institutions we work for. So we've got one where we're helping shore up the business and make it stable and reliable. The next one is we're actually helping them add services and products and features that their customers want, right? And, there's a wide variety there that we work with. And then I think on the NPC side, we still feel super fortunate we were able to bring the Sepio team into Blockdaemon. Like I was saying, there's really only 3 or 4 companies that have a, kick-ass cryptography team, like, actually that they can point to now. A lot of people are just using open source frameworks and building around it, right? So, when we're talking about security, that's obviously the other conversation that we add to the ecosystem as well. So I'd say they're probably the 3 vectors, service, performance, reliability, helping companies, build additional products, services, revenue lines, and, thinking about security as well. I think that's how we support the ecosystem.
That's really good. And speaking about this ecosystem, what do you kind of see of the future, the short term and kind of long term goals for the APAC region anyway, where you're at the very heart of it? Are there any kind of exciting projects or collaborations on the horizon that people should be listening out for?
Yeah, so I think from what we can see, so just taking a step back, I started in January to build out the APAC business. I report to our CEO. So January 2022. So it's coming up to 2 years now. Um, excuse me, we've been able, we're over 100 customers now in APAC and very focused on crypto native and digital native and, moving into sort of TradFi customer bases as well. And so what we see, there's a ton of exciting things on the horizon. I think, one thing we see in Asia is, a good example is the Circle and Grab wallet, right? Where if you look at that wallet, and I don't know if you've had a play with it, you log in, it's very simple, it's very pretty, it's very nice experience, it's very easy to use, but it really talks around use cases, right? Hey, this wallet is for rewards, loyalties, promos, special offers, NFTs. It doesn't say, hey, here's all the tokens you can hold. It's really kind of gone beyond that, right? It only holds 2 tokens, but it really is a wallet designed for engagement, loyalty, and participation rather than token holding. So I think, that we're going to look back at that milestone as like a really important milestone, for wallet because it really feels very different to a tradition, to a MetaMask. It's a very different experience, right? Over the Singapore F1, they did some NFTs with the regulator, and they're like, "Hey, with the regulator, we're releasing some NFTs, like super legit, right?" Like, so I think that's really important. Um, I think we're also quite excited about the gaming kind of ecosystem because this is where APAC is a leader. Like, we're looking at this globally.
Immutable. Yeah.
Yeah, the Immutable guys, we do a lot of work with Korean and Japan publishers. We've publicly made multiple press releases with a company called We Made in Korea. And if you talk to and We Made's a 20-year-old gaming company, publicly listed, Microsoft's an investor. You talk to the CEO and he's like, oh, blockchain, yeah, that's how I'm going to make my in-game items tradable and I'm going to deliver ownership. And like, I want that. I want to keep it away a little bit from the users, but I want the functionality and I want a marketplace and I want them tradable. Like, so I think, on the gaming side, we've been really fortunate to have some relationships with like the YGG folks, We Made, XPLA, Immutable, and what we're seeing coming on this side is going to drive mass adoption. But this is just gamers actually being able to own the in-game item, and the blockchain is just down and sitting at the back and just doing what it should be doing, not front and center.
I
So
think
yeah,
that's a very good point there because the whole like hatred towards NFTs was largely driven by the gaming space. The guy that was really into gaming and he's a really good documentarian, Line Goes Up, and a lot of the critiques that they had in that documentary that came out early last year were absolutely right. But it was such early tech, and all the criticisms for us were a list of things that we would in the Web3 and blockchain space. It's like an R&D list. Here's the things that we will tick off. Interoperability. Okay, let's work on that. And we're seeing it happen because it's like people hated the first iPod, or not hated, but it was like so clunky and much less of a useful tool than what we saw the evolution lead to. So yeah, I that gaming is really a great unlock as well for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I think, so the real gaming companies making games on chain is the game changer there, right? And working with, Immutable and,
I like the pun.
the folks. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's one. And then lastly, I'd say the institutional side. So, we are seeing a lot of movement, and it's very different on the institutional side. I like, to put it in a bucket, like I probably explain it the way of they're over the line on Bitcoin and ETH, and they want to do a tokenization project. So they're like, hey, like talk to me about your MPC and security. I'm not looking for all these tokens. Maybe in the future, maybe. But talk to me about how can I have a wallet or some MPC technology that aligns to the way I do custodian practices. I'm not looking for the most advanced wallet per se with really, crypto native type SOPs. What I'm looking for is something I can wrap my head around and I can upskill my current team. And I'd like the wallet to kind of work the way I work rather than work on how I see some wallets in the market work where you got to go get crypto native folk. So, we released our institutional wallet, and it's in 5 of the top tier 1 banks in the US right now. And what it gives them is, sometimes less is more, right? You can take an Apple approach to this. And so this wallet, it's not designed for crypto native that want to do 200 things in a wallet every day. It's not that. It's really designed to just really focus on, top 10 protocols, but also give complete control of key management in an SOP scenario that, more traditional institutions are used to. For example, we've got one bank that basically has the key management set up kind of like pseudo traditional custody, right? And, for them, it's really important that when they talk to the regulators, they say, nobody has a key, nobody ever had a key, nobody saw a key. I have all the keys. This is how I treat all the keys. Here is my kind of approval process for the keys. The keys are in my data center. So I think, we're starting to see some of these institutions focus on ownership and control and trying to work in the digital asset space, but wrap their head around it with analogies back to the traditional custody space. So we're seeing that as a trend line happening as well.
That's amazing. And I know that there's going to be, if we speak again in a few weeks' time or a few months' time, there's all of these great innovations that are going to continue. I hope that people that are listening to this really dive in and learn more and reach out. You guys are now a Australian DeFi Association sponsor, so thank you very
Yeah.
much, first of all, for that. But I want to get to the last question, which we ask everyone on the show, which is, what does community mean to you guys? I mean, especially because you are a sponsor, but just even in general, like what does or how important is the community to you guys over there?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And in a previous life, like, I was head of startup ecosystem at AWS for Asia. So community is really important. At Blockdaemon, we've always been in the community. For example, for Token, we had 2 of our OG engineering team come out and deliver a lot of content and talks at the builder events. So we're very much there to share our technical expertise. We like to run community events, and we like to get to know everybody and work out how we can be additive in a community before we start selling, right? Selling should come after you understand the community. Obviously, there's always going to be a sales motion, right? We're a commercial entity. But like we can spend some time to get to know and be additive to the community, and then that will lead to working out, where we're best placed to help customers with our, products and community. So, for example, one specific example, in Singapore this year we ran a Lunar New Year event with just a bunch of partners, no agenda. Like, let's just get together. It's been a tough year. Let's have a few drinks. If you want to talk about projects, great. If you want to just hang out and have a drink, also great, right? So I think those things are important. I think the one we ran together, with the Canvas folk and the SwiftX folk at Crypto Lulu is important. And you kind of work out how you can be helpful by doing these things, just making an effort, being there, be present, and just be genuine. Yeah, like these are the things we do really well. Yeah, okay, like if that works, great. Hey, no, sorry, we don't do that. Like, but we know these guys that do this other thing. So like maybe talk to them. So I think starting from community and building a business around the communities is a much more viable way to go to market, right? It takes a little bit longer, but I think it's more genuine and it's a more realistic and pragmatic approach. So, we're very focused on APAC. We are largely as a team in Singapore. We've got some people in Vietnam, Thailand, and Japan as well. But you'll continue to see us drive community activity, content, technical thought leadership, doing what we do best, and making sure we're engaging with the right folks in the community. Yep.
Fantastic. And I think you guys are the very epitome of that, given what we've seen and, given the new sponsorship that we have and the partnership that we'll have with you guys. There's an event that we're running tonight, and there'll be a video that you shared with us over the weekend. So thank you very much for that. It's a shame that you can't be here. There is that distance and stuff, but when you do come down here, people definitely need to know that you're here, and hopefully there are some gaps in time, or maybe we can run an event together again. But we'll work with your team on that. We thank you again, and thank you very much for this interview. The insights were wonderful. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that will learn lessons from this, whether it's about the community or how building these real world like infrastructure, or how can they use this infrastructure. That we're all about building blocks here in the blockchain space, and I think the power is that community and that collaboration and openness is really what will help us, and we have seen firsthand, both of us have seen, gets us to outcomes much faster than in the outside world. So bridging the gap is really key, and yeah, there's certainly a lot of lessons from this. But Andrew, for now, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the first couple of weeks of your new little bundle of joy.
We will do. Thanks for having us, Mark. And yeah, definitely let's do something together in Australia early in the new year. I'm looking forward to that. That'd be great.
Cheers.
Thank you.